There is such an omen: a missile does not fall into the same funnel twice. In those moments when a life hangs in the balance and the enemy continues its onslaught from all possible weapons, servicemen mentally reading prayers often follow omens. In 2014, in the battles for Luhansk Airport, paratrooper Andriy Usach decided to wait out the bombardment from Russian grads in an artillery hole from the previous bombardment. But a huge missile flew right to his feet and detonated.
Я ще намагався встати, я ще намагався повзти.
I was still trying to get up, try to crawl. I did not understand why I could not get up. Turning back, I saw that my leg was in a terrible state. In those few moments, it seemed like you could write a book or create a script for a good movie. All sorts of information and thoughts flashed through my head at great speed. At that moment, I somehow reassured myself, they say, without a leg, so I will live without a leg.
Різна інформація прилітала, обраховувалась. Але в той момент я себе якось вже заспокоїв, що без ноги так без ноги, буду, значить, жити.
When I tried to get up on my hand, it broke and did not hold me. I thought a fracture. They will put on a plaster, so be it.
Так подивився, думаю, перелом. Гіпс накладуть, якось буде.
At that time, Andriy realized what happened to him in very abstract terms. The fact that he survived is a real miracle. The missile explosion crippled his leg, burned his face, and all his body was cut by numerous fragments. His left hand was in such a mutilated condition that he could not even inject a painkiller into it. His friends took him from the battlefield and brought him to the medical unit. There were a lot of us, about 50 wounded, with injuries of varying complexity. It was hard to make myself stay alive because after watching good war movies, which show the evacuation of the wounded taking place within a matter of hours, and then you realize that you've been lying there 1 day, 2 days, 3, and you can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. There was a moment when I really lost hope and did not think that I would live at all. Continuous shelling of the enemy did not allow the wounded to be taken out. Contrary to all the written and unwritten laws of war, Russian mercenaries struck the hospital with grads. Andriy calls this moment his third birthday. The fact is that one of the shells pierced the roof of the building and flew inside. Mentally saying goodbye to this world, Usach closed his eyes and opened them in a few seconds. The rocket failed to explode. And after that incident, I realized that one can never lose hope. Even if you have just 1%, you must fight for your life to the end, not for yourself, but for the sake of someone. If it were not for that rocket, I would not have been able to endure being moved during shelling. When we were taken out en masse in a big truck, it was very hard, and it was not along a nicely lit, tarmacked road, but across fields and forests, and it was very difficult to endure being moved that way. But when they started shooting at us, wounded guys being transported, I thought this was ridiculous. After all, I'd survived that rocket, and I'll survive this too. We will get there and everything will be just fine. And that's how it turned out. Thank the good Lord we all got out of there alive. Andriy Usach is a paratrooper from Berezno, Rivne region. He served in the border guard troops. He was an active participant of the Euromaidan events and one of the first to defend Ukraine at the beginning of Russian aggression. And after the front line took his health away, he remained devoted to his lofty goal. If this is a stable, emotionally rounded person whose personality has been formed, then such difficulties and reassessment of values throw off everything that's not needed, and the person is reborn, becomes stronger and more resilient.
Действительно рождается заново и становится другой, более сильной и стойкой личностью.
Before the war, Usach worked as an engineer. He installed heating systems in houses and apartments in his hometown of Berezno. After events on Maidan, the annexation of Crimea and part of Donbas, Andriy went to the draft board as a volunteer. Sitting and waiting, I could not restrain myself. And when they phoned from the draft board and offered me the chance to sign a contract, I went. I passed the medical examination, all those bureaucratic issues, and in March 2014 I was already part of the 80th Brigade. I went to Donbas with them to defend Ukraine.
І в складі потім 80-ки поїхав на схід захищати Україну.
Swapping spud ranges for a machine gun, our hero reached Luhansk Airport together with his sworn brothers. He lost his leg in battle and received numerous injuries. According to the preliminary diagnosis of doctors, Andriy's left arm was subject to amputation too. But army surgeons managed not only to save the limb, but to also partially preserve its functionality. In fact, what was at stake was amputation of the arm. The upper and lower bone were crushed, and there was a muscle defect. The doctors were thinking seriously about cutting it off. But during surgery, some doctors put together my face, others put together my arm, and others my leg. And that was all at the same time. They began the surgery in Lviv, because after spending the night in Kharkiv, we were already being taken to other hospitals. And when some doctors wanted to cut off the arm, others suggested, let's try to save it. We might manage to do it. Returning from the next world, and on more than one occasion, Andriy Usach reviewed his outlook on life. He began to look for himself in new conditions. First, he was going to return to the front line and help Ukrainian soldiers to drive the enemy out beyond the border. But realizing the extent of his injuries, the paratrooper abandoned this idea and discovered a different battlefield.
Спорт и боевые действия, они так сложилось, что идут параллельно.
Sport and fighting. It just so happened that they run in parallel. And many things that we see in sports, particularly medical assessments, are adopted by army doctors.
Военными врачами. И наоборот, многое то, что мы видим в спорте,
And a great deal of what we see in sports, quick assessments of condition, certain the ability to bring an athlete or soldier back to the game/combat, many things are taken from military medicine to sports. These two fields go together, hand in hand.
Два направления идут вместе.
That is why, after British royal family member Prince Harry finished his military service in Afghanistan in 2014, he decided to organize the Invictus Games, an international multi-sports athletics competition for former and current servicemen who were wounded, injured, or fell ill in hot spots. The games are held in different countries around the world. Ukraine has been taking part in them since 2017.
Це комплексний образ. Перша складова спортивна.
This is a complex thing. The first component is a sporting one. The second is a psychological one. The third is a social project. This enables servicemen, participants, and veterans of the anti-terrorist operation to express themselves in certain sports, to find themselves in civilian society. The goal was set to train, recover, and get to the Invictus Games. But the nature of Andriy's wounds significantly narrowed his range of opportunities when choosing a sport. There is an archery section in Berezno, and through tremendous efforts, Usach still forced his injured hand to hold the bow firmly and evenly.
Як вдається, тобто є велике бажання.
How do I manage to do it? I just have a great desire, and you should never feel sorry for yourself or cry that someone is to blame. What was meant to happen has happened. Every person has their own book of life, and you won't escape from it.
Від того не втічеш.
The Invictus Games are more than just a sport. The participants from 18 countries defend the democratic values and freedoms of their citizens. An invitation to the Invictus Games still needs to be earned, and Ukraine has received such high recognition.
Well, NATO is a strong believer in the Invictus Games because these are games for the active and former sportsmen of the military and armed forces of both NATO and partner countries. And therefore we think it is very important to support our sportsmen, our military sportsmen, be it Ukraine or elsewhere.
The Invictus Games have been attracting hundreds of participants in Ukraine for 2 years now. For the guys, this is a chance to get to the Invictus Games and, most importantly, to support each other and receive support from Ukrainian society.
Олімпійський принцип діє, тому що в цьому році я прийшов не тільки для
The Olympic principle really does work. Because this year I came not only to take part, but also to see my friends, brothers, whom I met last year, with whom I did military service in eastern Ukraine. So it's a great pleasure for me to see those who took part a year ago. It's nice to see that this movement is continuing, and most likely 2/3 of this year's participants are already new people, new athletes. They are in the spotlight. They're supported by the first persons of the state, opinion leaders, public figures, top athletes. They're the heroes of their country, invincible heroes. I will be happy if they come again. They will need to be taught, trained. I will worry about them when they go to the competition stage. This is all about experience. It is the experience that you won't simply find among professional athletes or only involved in sports. These are completely different people. These are those people who should be with us, who should be teaching us. Alongside today's contenders are those who've already represented Ukraine at the Invictus Games. In the archery sector, we have Andriy Usach, silver medal winner at the Games in Canada. He gives tips to the participants. He knows how important it is. You do not know where to go, what to do, how and what should happen. And you start worrying, though they explain to you what, where, how it will all happen. Because there are few people you know. There's no one. You are alone. It's good if you have friends there or a group of people to talk to.
Що стосується Invictus, це для мене багато чого значить. Одне із таких
With regard to the Invictus Games, they mean a lot to me. One of these things is a positive desire to see the eyes of other veterans who want to achieve something. The look in the eyes of a human being can say a great deal. And thanks to that, you also acquire the energy to keep living, because you see this desire in the eyes of others. And you can't say to yourself, "No, I'm tired, no, stop," because you will feel ashamed in the presence of others. After preliminary tests, Andriy Usach arrived in Kyiv for the national qualifiers. About 300 men and women fought to be among the 15 selected. The Invictus Games are not only a test of physical strength, but above all, one of fortitude. And the fact that you are here today is already testimony of the invincibility of the Ukrainian nation. It took Andriy Usach almost 2 years to perfect archery. He tried, but did not get to the Invictus Games in 2017. And as befits a real invincible, this circumstance only provoked our hero. Usach continued to harden his body through physical exercises, and so he managed to achieve his goal. He's a member of the 2018 national team of Ukraine.
Своїм прикладом я хочу показати, що
I want to show that there is no need to impose any restrictions on oneself, even without arms or feet. I believe it's better not to read about it in books, but to be a real role model. And I'm very pleased when one of our veterans gets out of that trance and also starts getting involved in playing sports.
Вийде з того трансу і почне займатися так само далі спортом.
To get into training for the Invictus Games in Sydney, our team was provided with everything they needed: shooting galleries, swimming pools, stadiums, gyms. As practice shows, rehabilitation through participation in sports is one of the most effective methods of bringing a soldier out of the post-traumatic state that the body and soul find themselves in.
По-перше, ті військовослужбовці, які на сьогоднішній день виконують конституційний обов'язок на території.
Well, first of all, these servicemen who are fulfilling their constitutional duty in eastern Ukraine must remember that they will return to civilian life after they have completed their duty. And we, society, the armed forces, other institutions of the security and defense sector should help them to pass through this path from a combat state to a state of peaceful existence.
До стану мирного існування.
Well, we of course welcome the fact that Ukraine has joined the Invictus Games last year. This is the second year that NATO is supporting the Ukrainian team through our dedicated trust fund for medical rehabilitation. And with this trust fund, we have supported the travels, the uniforms, the trainings of your team.
Andriy Usach, Serhiy Shimchak, Alexander Zizulak, and Maya Moskvich make up the Ukrainian national archery team at the 2018 Invictus Games. Olha Yahotkina, who's an experienced coach, will manage them. She's happy with both the preliminary results and the atmosphere within the team. They shot 2 distances. They shot the sparring. Everything was just as it should be. And they shot as a team and won. I saw how they fought as a team. It's already clear that this is a proper team. 15 Ukrainian heroes went out to Sydney. They attract close attention from the press. Shoulder to shoulder with them are stars from show business, athletes, as well as leaders and heads of state. Ukraine is proud of you. Ukraine believes in you. Let the slogan "Glory to Ukraine" be our slogan around the world.
Буде гасло «Слава Україні!»
Just like last year, the bronze medal was the first one won by our team. It was cyclist Denis Fishchuk who adorned it on his neck on the first day of the 2018 Invictus Games. Then the medal started gushing into the piggy bank of the national team.